Hey guys, I want to do a little video today about if you need a car or a vehicle in the Philippines. A lot of people, have asked me, do you think you need to buy a car, a tricycle, or a motorcycle, or scooter, or whatever to get around in the Philippines because of the amount of transportation we have here. And where I live, I get around just with public transportation. Okay, on occasion I'll rent a van or something like that if I want to go someplace far away, just for like a trip or something, road trip or something. We'll get a bunch of us to get together and go to like Tagaytay or something like that. But I mean, I'm fairly healthy. I would consider myself in decent health wise, like as in like my internal organs and stuff like that. But I mean, like I have a problem with my hip and stuff like that, and I do have problems, because I have sciatica, getting in and out of jeepneys sometimes on a really bad day. And sometimes I wish I had a vehicle, but you really don't need a vehicle around here. Whether you got a car or not, you're still going to be hurting, as far as like for me. Other people who are in wheelchairs or use crutches or walkers or something like that, yeah, you're probably going to need a car. But driving around here is really rough. You're probably going to need a driver too. Some places you can get around easy and you can drive fairly well. It really depends on your area. If you're out in the provinces, guys, I recommend you at least have like a scooter or a car or something, or a truck or whatever to get around. Some places you might even need four-wheel drive. Depending on what's around you, depending on what your living conditions are like and what you get used to. Some people, they can adjust to the province lifestyle of living on province food, and that's fine. You can live like that. But for me, to live American style, you need to live fairly close to a city, and you need to have some sort of transportation, and public transportation works fine for me. I mean, I'm fairly close to a lot of stores. I can jump in a tricycle, walk right out at the end of my walkway here, and jump into a tricycle and be at the mall in 5 minutes or less, depending on which mall I go to. I did get an electric scooter one time, but I ended up returning it. I just didn't like, I drove it around for one night, and it just, the next day I returned it. I lost 5% on the price, 5 or 10% or something like that. I think it was 5%. And I returned it, and it was because when the first night I was out on the road, first of all, I didn't like the way the bike rode. It just rode different than a regular scooter or motorcycle. And I've driven motorcycles when I was younger. I just didn't like the way it rode, and I didn't like the way the roads were. It's extremely dangerous riding a motorcycle around here. I've seen quite a few accidents in that over a year and a half that I've been here. Both with cars, trucks, motorcycles, jeepneys tipped over, people killed. I've seen a guy get squished sitting in a tricycle. If you're in Manila, you probably can get around, unless you're disabled, severely disabled, like with a wheelchair, walker, even with a cane, you probably can get away without having a car. In Manila, I don't really think you need a car, because there's so much public transportation and so much nearby that you can go anywhere. And the same with some of the major cities in the Philippines, and in some of the smaller cities too. You can like where I live. I live in Tracy Martirez. It's really nice. It's everything's close by. I live in a decent area. I live close to the mayor of our town, and it's a nice neighborhood, and like I said, everything's close. I can walk to 7-Eleven. I can walk to Super 8, which is a grocery store here. I can walk there. I mean, if I have a bad day, because I am a little disabled with my legs and my kneecaps and my hip now, as I'm aging and stuff like that, it's getting worse. Maybe someday I might need a car, but right now, on a good day, I can get around pretty well. I mean, I have my days where I have to take, some meds or something like that, and, I suffer a little bit more than others. Last year, I had like 3 months where I couldn't travel much. I couldn't even get out of bed because my sciatica was so bad. But anyway, You really need to like look at the place you're at when you come here. For you expats that are coming over here and you're thinking about buying a car right away, you might not need one. Okay, you might just need a scooter. You might need nothing. If you're moving to a place that's a small town or something like that, you know, it could be in the middle. It depends on the transportation that's in that town. Some towns don't have as much transportation as others. Some towns you go to and you barely ever see a tricycle. And other towns you go to and there's tricycles everywhere. Some towns you go to, there's not many like jeepneys and tricycles or anything. It depends on the island you're on. It depends on the town you're in, stuff like that. So wherever you guys plan on moving, you just kind of have to assess the situation in the first few days that you're there. But I recommend moving to places where you don't need transportation if you're fairly healthy. I mean, like I said, if you're disabled or something, and you need a wheelchair or something like that, you can't get on a jeepney really. They do have disabled seats in the jeepneys. Sometimes they're marked well, and sometimes people just sit there anyway. They're not really supposed to. If you're right, if for all you expats that are right here, you already know that most jeepneys have a marked seat that says disabled. They're supposed to give that seat up to you. You know, if you are disabled or partially disabled or whatever. You know, but it's still hard getting in and out of a jeepney. But it's probably just as hard to get in and out of a car if you're disabled or whatever. The jeepneys tend to be a little bit more dangerous for people that are disabled because the guy's in a rush sometimes. He'll move even before you're halfway in the vehicle sometimes, you know. So there's dangers associated with being disabled and riding on public transportation. That's why I say, you know, you're better off, you know, having your own vehicle. But you can get around. You can get around. I manage fairly well, you know, on good days. If I have a bad day, my right leg is bothering me or something like that from the sciatica. Sometimes my left leg bothers me too. I have to keep my legs stretched out, and you know, it's kind of difficult. So, I mean, lately I've been having some good days and bad days, but I mean, for the average person that's really healthy that comes over here, I mean, and you can walk around far distances and stuff like that, you should be fairly decent. And it also depends on how much heat you can put up with and stuff like that. I mean, you don't mind some people don't mind walking 2 miles to town or riding a bicycle or something like that. And some places you can't ride a bicycle. In my town, I wouldn't ride a bicycle. I wouldn't ride a bicycle if you paid me. It's really dangerous. The cars really don't care about you. They don't care if they hit you or nick you or whatever. I don't even think it's safe to walk along the side of the road unless you're on a sidewalk. You know, and fortunately my town has sidewalks, so I can walk places sometimes when I'm, you know, when I'm feeling okay. When I'm having a good day, I can walk longer distance than when I'm having a bad day. But for most of you guys, like, you really have to assess your town. You know, look at your town. Like I said, Manila's really easy to get around in. Anybody can get around in Manila. But if you're disabled, like I said, you're gonna need like a car, and you might need assistance getting into your car and stuff like that. But I wouldn't recommend using a jeepney. Manila, also if you're disabled, you have to consider being close to hospitals and stuff like that. And usually that's in a city or a big town. You know, and you have to consider that you need that. So, or if you live further away and you're disabled and you want to live further away, you might have to have a car to travel to the hospital in emergencies or whatever. So all these things are to be considered. For me though, if you're healthy, I highly recommend, if you're healthy and you're coming over here and you're fairly young, that's when you want to live out by the provinces or in a small town or something, far away from the pollution and everything, with, you know, close to the beaches and stuff like that. As you age, you know, there's still nice places you can move. I'm kind of like half, you know, I'm like about 25 miles outside of Manila. I live in a decent town. I mean, where I live is very, you know, there's no smog in my area where I live, unless you go into town. It's cooler. We're close to Tagaytay. So all these things are to be considered about transportation. You know, it's a tough call for you know, you can't just peg it down and say, yeah, you need a car. It just doesn't work that way here in the Philippines. Each location has its own, you know, differences. And some places are mountainous, and you might need a, you know, like a really good motorcycle with a really good motor, or a truck or something like that, a car with a decent engine on it. Depends whether the roads are muddy, all this stuff. Everything is so different in the Philippines, you really can't peg it down. So what I would say is just, if you're moving here and you're considering about, you know, what am I going to drive around? What am I going to need? Most of you who are healthy can get around fairly well using public transportation in a decent sized town. Okay. The difference is if you, like I said, if you move into the provinces, don't even consider, you know, going without a car, or at least a motorcycle or a dirt bike or something, because you need it. You need to have it. You got to get around. You got to go get your food. You know, you want to go visit friends and stuff like that. You don't want to be bored stiff sitting in your house all the time, not being able to go anyplace. Me, I like to go out to eat. I like to travel a little bit. I take buses. That's the other thing. Transportation here is your buses, and you can travel almost anywhere. Like in Luzon, you can travel by bus. It does get a little bit difficult if you have sciatica or something like that. But you know, you know, each person's different. On a good day, I can travel on a bus, and on a bad day, I can't. You know, so I don't know. It's just different case for each and every person, guys. You know, we'll talk to you later, guys. I just want to put that out there about transportation. Have a good one, guys. Be sure to subscribe.